So the question arises among many of us, why do so many marriages fail? Of course, there's a honeymoon, the preparations. Before that, there's the courtship. Most of you can relate to this. You meet somebody, your heart begins to flutter. Begin to have long conversations on the telephone, and you meet for dinner and you just talk for hours. The restaurant is closing. The waiter politely comes up and says, "Sir, sorry, we're closing in about 5 minutes." You have to get up and you have to find some place. Maybe you sit in the car or in the park and talk for hours and hours. You can't wait for the next time that you meet again. You feel butterflies in your stomach and you say to yourself, I'm talking from the point of view of a man at this point, okay? The same applies, of course, to a woman. And you say, this is the woman who is going to make me happy. She is going to fulfill my life's dream of happiness and joy. And it's going to be a wonderful life. So then you make all the preparations and you meet her parents, she meets your parents, and you set a date for a wedding. And then you're busy with all the preparations, the pictures, what is going to be served at the tables, what kind of music are you going to have, the first dance, the pictures, the videos. All excited and planning. The day comes. I forgot the marriage ceremony. So then there you are, you go to the church and there's flowers on the pews as she walks down the aisle, and there you are looking at her and you smiles and she smiles and everybody's smiling. It's a wonderful moment. And then she steps up to the aisle and her father hands her to you, and the priest says all those beautiful words, till death do us part, in richness or in poor, in sickness or in health, forevermore together. And you say your I do's. You run out to the car. It's been drenched in whipped cream or shaving cream, and cans are tied to the back, and you take off running in the car and everybody's throwing rice. I hope not rice, because anyway, whatever it is, flowers, petals. And then you go and maybe you have enough money where you are going to stay in a nice hotel for a week or two, and then, or wherever, your house, your apartment, wherever you go, and then there's a honeymoon and it's love making and wonderful, wonderful 2 weeks. And then the honeymoon is over. The honeymoon is over, and then you settle down in your house or your apartment, and you fall into your everyday routine of going to work, going to school. Everything sort of organizes itself. Maybe she's going to cook, or she gets home earlier and she cooks a dinner, and you sit there, you say, what a wonderful dinner, and you kiss her and you thank her and you're so grateful, and she's so blushing and happy. And it goes on like this for a little while. a year, 2 years, 5 years, 6 months, whatever. All the little things that you didn't know about each other begin to come out, and that's okay. Make your adjustments. As time goes along and you're feeling happy, but then that happiness begins to sort of fade. It's sort of like when you buy a new car and you sit in the car for the first 6 months or so. It's very beautiful and shiny, and you're exploring all the buttons and all the gadgets on it, and then after a while it's just a car. So after a while, you wake up one morning, probably a Saturday or Sunday morning, and you think to yourself, I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. Well, of course, that statement can express itself in many different ways. You know, she really expects too much of me, or I really don't like the way she does this, whatever. What happens is that after a while, you don't feel happy anymore, like you thought you would be, like you were in the beginning. You kind of settle down into a quiet life, having negotiated your expectations a little bit, trying to adjust. And then finally you again say, I'm really not happy in this relationship. You go to work. I'm just going to paint one scenario, but there are many, many scenarios to be painted in this. I'm just going to pick one that's easy because I like easy. So you're going to work, you stop off at the cafe, and you're there, and then you sit down and somebody comes, a woman comes by and says, this seat taken, do you mind if I sit here? No, go ahead, and you strike up a conversation. And you become friends, and then every day is like that. And you really like her. She's really nice. She's got some great points different from your wife at home. And then you start looking forward to meeting this woman. And then one day you say, I think this woman can make me happy. I'm not happy in my marriage. She's not really making me happy, but I really think this one can make me happy. And next thing you know, there's a divorce. And then you go through the whole thing all over again. And this can play out many ways. It could play out that you end up divorcing that one and marrying another one. You could go on like that, 3 or 4 or 5 marriages. Or at one point in one of those marriages, she becomes pregnant and you have children. So now it's a different scenario, and you decide that, well, we have children, so I'm going to stick it out because of the children. Or it could be that financially both your salaries equal up to a comfortable lifestyle. And you say, well, we're kind of financially interdependent, so I'm going to hold off. So it's either for children, financial reasons, could be psychological reasons, whatever. but it happens. Or you can end up divorcing and end up living by yourself and lose interest in marriage. Or, this scenario can play out with what I mentioned earlier: a car, a new house that you buy, anything. It can play out, but the fact of the matter is that there is no happiness. Now, why? When in the beginning it was all so wonderful and beautiful and it seemed like it was going to work and you felt happy. Just meeting her, you just felt so happy. You had these expectations that this woman was going to make you happy or this man was going to make you happy. Here's why most marriages fail. Most marriages fail because most people go into the relationship with a void within themselves, an emptiness that they feel that is temporarily filled by this other person at the moment. What actually isn't filled, what's happening is that we forget about it and we feel this happiness. So most people, because of the egoic personality, go into relationship, into a marriage with expectations from the other person. I dare say demands over the other person, demanding that the other person makes you happy, insisting that the other person must make you happy, that the other person must fulfill you, that she is your other half, this sort of thing. This is the way people enter into marriages. And what happens is that after a while, let's say for instance that the man has tremendous expectations and puts tremendous demands over his wife to make him happy rather. And she is trying. She's trying with all she can to make this man happy. Okay. But she herself has an emptiness. That's why she came into a relationship in the first place. Because she felt that he was going to fulfill her, that he was going to make her happy. But she decided that she's going to sacrifice her happiness to try to make this man happy. But she's unable to. One or two things will happen. Either he'll finally conclude that she can't make him happy and look elsewhere, or she will be so drained by trying to make him happy that she has nothing left, and she herself feels that she just can't go on anymore in this relationship, and she decides to get a divorce. Or the other way around, he can be the one who feels that he is being drained, and he decides for that reason to pull out of the relationship, or she feels that she just can't, or that this man cannot make her happy, and she decides to pull out. Whatever the scenario, it plays that way. And the only reason most marriages stay together, unfortunately, is because of the children, or because they're interdependent psychologically, financially, or of course they have children in common. And this is the reason why the divorce rates are so high. The fact and the truth is that nobody out there can make us happy. Nobody. There's nobody out there that can make you happy. Happiness has to come from you. It has to well out from inside of you. You have to find it in yourself. And you're not going to find it chasing after women or cars or new cell phones or property or prestige or power or fame. Eventually you'll find that the same thing that I just described in a marriage would happen with all of those things. Because you have this expectation that these things are going to make you happy, and they don't have that ability. The happiness that we want is already in us. We have to realize it within ourselves. We need to turn our eyes inward and look inward in order to be able to find it. But we have this because the emptiness is inside, so we have to look inside. But we have the emptiness inside, and we're looking outside to fill something that cannot be fulfilled because nobody else has. Everybody is doing that for themselves. Everybody wants to be happy. We all can agree on that. We all want to be happy. But we live in this egoic mind, this egoic personality that demands and needs and wants and expects. And this is the way we live our lives. Even the thief in the street that goes and robs a store and takes money and runs away. He risks his life and his freedom to steal money because he thinks that money, whatever he is going to do with that money, is going to make him happy. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're in prison, you are in prison because you thought either something that you could take would make you happy, or you felt that something that was happening, your expectations were not met, and you reacted in an unlawful manner. If you're a famous person, you get fame and fortune, and then you feel empty, lonely. All the people around you are all around there with the egoic personality wanting to take from you. You see, and you see that, and you can't really have a friend. If you have fame and fortune, what you would have to do to find out if you can really have a friend is to disguise yourself and go to some other country and walk around as a pauper, as a poor person, and meet people that are not interested in your money, and then you can really tell if they're truly your friends or not. So this idea that you're going to find happiness in marriage, I don't know. You know, I've heard some people say, "Oh, I'm happy." Well, they negotiated their expectations, whittled them down to a bare existence, and they call that happiness. While all the time they're carrying this inferno within themselves that nobody knows is there. And this is how we live, carrying our own little infernos inside ourselves. The ideal marriage. I'll give you that, and then I'll stop. The ideal marriage. A man has found the happiness within himself. He feels complete. He has no need of anything. And there's a woman yonder way who's happy and complete within herself. She has no need of a man, no need of anything. She is complete and content and fulfilled because she went inward, okay, and found herself, which is the whole foundation of all of these videos, is finding oneself. And they meet, these two. And the man looks at her and says, "You know, I want nothing from you. But I have all this joy that I want to share with you." And she says, "And I want nothing from you, but I have this joy I want to give to you." And they begin a relationship giving to each other because they're filled. They don't have this emptiness within themselves, this egoic need to have to want to grab, which is what everybody in the world, well, most people in the world are experiencing. So these two people begin to give of themselves to each other. And the giving comes from a fountain, an unending source within themselves. That's the place to be. So think about this. Whatever it is that you're chasing after, ask yourself. Imagine yourself having attained it. Are you driving a new car? Did you buy it, last week? Wait a couple of months. Just got married? I wish you all the best, but if you haven't found happiness within yourself, then time will tell. I'm sorry. This is all about truth. But there is happiness. That's the good news. There is happiness and there is joy. And what we want is joy. Happiness is contingent on sadness. The more sadness you experience, the greater your happiness, because we live in a world duality of opposites. Okay? The poorer you are, if you hit the lottery, the richer you're gonna feel. If you're already rich and you hit the lottery, you feel it, but you won't feel it as much as a person who was really poor. Do you see? I leave you with that. I am Shen. Thank you for watching.